Hi everybody! We are serving new blends with the most creative minds in design and architecture. So let's find out what this episode has in store for us. Your ICED Macchiatos is serving.
Founded in Milan in 1994 by the Roman-born Ludovica Serafini and the Cagliari-born Roberto Palomba, the Palomba Serafini studio has distinguished itself over the years by the distinctiveness of their products and projects. The two architects, who flourish as both designers and creators, utilize long-standing collaborations when designing objects and furniture for all areas of the home, from the bathroom to the living room to the bedroom, from lighting to accessories, and from indoor to outdoor areas. Foscarini, Talenti, Alias, Giorgetti, Zucchetti Cos, Ideal Standard, and Poltrona Frau are just some of the companies that have entrusted this pair of creative minds with the design of many of their products and collections. Palomba Serafini have received numerous international awards, including the Compasso d'Oro in 2011 for their Lab 03 sink by Cos, and more recently, the prestigious AHEAD European Hotel of the Year for the Palazzo Daniele Boutique Hotel in Salento. Palomba Serafini's design projects in both the residential and hospitality sectors always leave a profound mark thanks to their refined architectural interiors. Their projects always respect and enhance the history of the ambiance with stunning furnishing and decoration options. The renovation of the Sogliano Cavour oil mill in Salento is one of the most beloved projects on Pinterest and serves as a real masterclass on how to bring modern design to a location that is rich with history.
Today's ICED Macchiatos has a double mixture, I Ludovica and I Roberto. The last time we met, we were at the flower market. So let's start with nature, flowers, animals.
Let's start with the most beautiful thing, flowers. Do you want to? I think flowers and nature are very beautiful things. To the word nature I associate with green plants. I don't associate mountains, lakes, starry skies, the moon. But the green of plants, I breathe it. I need it. That's what we do. They produce oxygen for us. It was beautiful that day we met, in the midst of all these colours, scents, etc. Bit intoxicating. Besides, the flower market's on a Saturday, so it's a day of freedom. And if you dedicate it to something nice, that was very nice. And it reminds me, sometimes when I have dinner parties at house, I don't have time to make flowers. Usually there's always flowers at my place. If I don't make it in time, I go down to the garden and pick some strange flowers and branches to make something nice. A bit last minute, but at least I bring greenery into the house, among the guests.
Improvising. What about the animals, Roberto?
Besides me, animals have always been in our lives, both together and individually. I don't think I've ever spent a year of my life without an animal in the house. Dogs, cats, parrots, etc. When we met, I had parrots. And then today, there are our dogs of a certain age, who have been with us for many years, who are the most affectionate part of what you have with nature. They become a kind of child that you can spoil. They're dogs that we recover with a sad, messed up story. Often they're greyhounds with a Semitic and wonderful character. They've not always had a pleasant life either, because they're used for racing. Animals suit you very much. More than a human being.
Does the greyhound itself have a connection or inspiration with work, thought, or creativity?
Greyhounds have two characteristics. Besides being very beautiful, they have two very distinct personalities. When they're in a pack, they're very aggressive dogs. Hunting dogs, hunting very big prey. They have a very strong sense of community in the group. And when they are single, instead, they are adorable dogs, very attached to their owner, very sticky, very affectionate. Somehow, they're very similar to us. We individually also are affectionate people, but we know the sense of teamwork and attack when we need to. There's an affinity with the greyhound's character, apart from the physical form that is not that of a greyhound.
Let's say that they play a fundamental role
Absolutely,
in
yes.
personal and professional life.
Then we have another Salento dog, a foundling of his, a special edition that has settled in our house.
She's a little savage.
She's everybody's boss. When it's time to eat, she calls everyone. She's the leader of the pack, the only female with a big temper. We're very attached to these dogs.
You were talking about nature earlier. I met this dog when I was running in the nature of the Salento Noa. She looked at me with these golden eyes, and it was love at first sight. She was a stray, 5 or 6 months old. When I installed her, I bought her from Salento to Milan. I bought her to our facility, and she saw these two much bigger dogs than she was. She was 4 kilos, they were 15 kilos. Much more. She looked at them and immediately put them in line, and she became the leader of the pack. It was her decision.
In a picture on your website, I found both of you sitting on a couch, one in front of the other. In contrast to the light, I can see your silhouette but not your expressions. Why did you choose such a different and intimate shot at the same time, but also expressive?
Well, we're architects as well as designers. The vision of an architect is that you always have to tell everything together. The interior is details. In the backlight image, it seems to me that behind it there is a white curtain. There are profiles. And you don't know what we're thinking, but it gives you exactly the environment that we always tell you. In every architecture project, we take care of humanity, of people. It's never an abstract vision of space, but it's necessary for the human being to live well. It's a concept of embrace. From the womb, you then move onto space. That photo then, in my opinion, speaks well of the concept of intimacy which you can have. But that's all you say. You leave the viewer's desire to be intrigued.
Do you agree?
By the way, I find that shot quite significant in the story of the modesty of emotions. Usually, we are always so anxious to tell ourselves, to tell what we do. We want to prevail what others do. Instead, in that shot, we somehow understand that you exist, but denying your face and your expression, you show the modesty to say, yes, I am there, but I don't want to invade you. I found that shot very interesting compared to those frontal portraits that we are obliged to do. By doing this work, we are forced to expose ourselves in the first person. Instead, this shot is very abstract and gives us back the dignity of people as well as professionals. Very nice.
Roberto.
In 2012, you wrote a story for the Huffington Post, and it was titled Alors on Danse. It was about a dance hall where the entrepreneurs are still called masters, and the partners are not the ensemble from school. You feel lost and happy, but you feel a growing discomfort. And you write, I can't help but wonder, as a designer and architect, are we still able to convey happiness with what we do? Or maybe we will never be able to compete with a slice of homemade cake offered on a dance floor? I enter with the prosopopoeia and arrogance that unite me to some colleagues, and I come out full of energy and doubts about the truth and beauty that are proper of affection.
Ho scritto queste cose così intelligenti.
Really write these things so smart? I'm amazed at myself.
I read the whole story, and I congratulate you.
Thank you. Surely someone corrected it.
Raccontami un po'.
Tell me
Guarda, è
about
stata
it.
un'esperienza incredibile.
It was definitely an incredible experience.
Per un po' ho frequentato
A few years ago, I went to a dance hall where I went very crazy, and nice friends who dragged me to dance on Sunday afternoon.
un posto
A place out of this world.
dove non c'era nessun oggetto.
When there was no object that could be associated with my profession, there was no designer object, no design object, no attention to aesthetics.
Che si ritrovavano tutti i
But there was this group of people, very often elderly people too, who met every Sunday afternoon. And then they shared the passion of dancing, the cake, etc. And then they opened to new people like me, an emotional dimension that shocked me. I was used to an aesthetic world where we have to pay attention to proportions, colors, combinations, etc. But then I came across this world. In fact, I had somewhat lost that dimension of spontaneity and effectivity that comes from people, which then, in reality, should be the final recipient of everything we do. And then that shock made me think, am I capable with my work of transferring happiness? Is my work something that gives happiness to others or simply furnishes spaces? Do I give sufficient importance and weight to the recipient of the work? Or do I do everything just for myself, by imposing one aesthetic on another? I think these are questions we should ask ourselves a little more often. That ballroom dance on Sunday afternoon gave me the opportunity to open up a bit and tell about myself in a different way. And from there, also other projects were born that somehow changed our way of designing a little bit. And we became a little more attentive to others and a little autarkic. I think we did a good job.
Riuscito a darti o siete
So, have you been able to give yourself some
Diciamo che
answers?
siamo un po' dei
Let's say that
pentiti, forse.
we are a bit of repentant designers. Selfish repentant. I think it was good for me to be faced with such a familiar kind of affection and confidence that you normally have within your family. But on that occasion, I had it with complete strangers. So maybe the design should be this. Our objects should be designed with that degree of intimacy that can bring affection into the homes of people we don't know, who could be anywhere in the world. So we need to design things that are effective, like acts of affection. I don't want to draw stuffed animals, but I want them to convey emotions and not just aesthetics and price.
Se dovessimo quindi...
What if today we had to redraw that ballroom?
La rifarei
I would redesign it exactly as it is. I wouldn't change a single comma. And I think I would force my university students to visit it as an example of an experience. A word that affects us all a bit today. And I would ask them to close their eyes and try to imagine something that could fit in there without having to go through a company catalogue.
You know, this topic that Roberto was talking about, an extra step towards the next one translates into very concrete things. For example, in lighting, you have to bring lamps that have a dimmer, which you can lower the intensity of the light at home as much as you want to create an atmosphere you want. We paid a lot more attention to these details. We focused a lot on the size of the sofas, in which is where you are, because in the theory of living, you can also sleep on a couch. We could go even deeper into the concept of living, but all these things become products that are not only designed in a more welcoming way, but give the user the possibility to interact with this final product. You're less distant in this way. It's not an afterthought. It's an evolution. You go back and forth, get lost, and you find yourself. Everything is a stimulus, and everything around us helps to evolve creative thoughts. It's not a book. It's not a novel
Sure.
already written, what we do. It's all change.
Non guardare me, io cambio solo
Don't
l'acqua.
look at me. I just changed the water in your pots.
Allora,
love.
nei vostri ritratti...
In your official portrait, you often have an image, a somewhat of austere expression. In the Palazzo Daniele project, I take a bit of a hospitality project as a reference, if we can define it that way. Even for it is in color, it has a bit of an autarkic interior. Shall we consider this a bit like an identity card or business card compared to the project itself?
Bella domanda.
Oh, good question.
Allora, io credo mi hai fatto venire in mente questa cosa.
You reminded me of the speech about seriousness.
Benigni è una persona che
Benini is a person who tells you laughingly about the great and very serious truths. But he does it in a serious way.
ridi sulle cose che gli dici.
You laugh at the things he says. You get holes in these things.
Perché parla di
He
argomenti
often talks about strong arguments.
E il nostro ruolo è diverso, essendo degli architetti noi non possiamo.
In our work, we can't build houses out of paper, which would one day collapse on you, and then we'd all laugh about it together.
Perché magari qualcuno
It doesn't work that way in our profession.
una parte di
It takes a part of a dream,
emozione e poi la parte seria.
emotion, and a serious part of the project.
Ovviamente Palazzo Daniele ha
Surely Palazzo Daniele has some waste colours. It is the project of a building of the 700 that has been renovated, and it's not like the renovation of tombs of the pharaohs.
punte, colore, dici, wow, però che pantone. Non è così.
It's not like that. You can tell everything.
Se io fossi un muro,
If I were a wall, you would know how much I would know after centuries of listening to people. You could rewrite history, wouldn't you?
And who knows what dress you like to wear?
True.
e che trucchi.
And the wig and the makeup and the shoes.
Io che vado sempre
I always go around in sneakers, but I always like other people's
Tu sai che
shoes.
sua figlia, cioè nostra figlia,
Our
l'ha
daughter
sempre-
always teased her. She always said,
Tu non sei una donna,
"You're not a woman, you're an architect.
ecco da quando piccola.
You've never worn a heel since I've known you." Finally,
Ad un ballo molto bello.
A few years ago, we were supposed to go to a ball, and she had a very young designer make a very special dress. And at a certain point, she says, "I have no shoes." So we went to a shoe store and bought some relatively low-cut shoes. She came out of the store and said, "I'm not a woman, I'm an architect." So this thing stayed in the house.
It's becoming a home label.
An awful label, yeah. As much as I can dress like Barbie, do you know Barbie was an architect?
I don't think so.
Ma io continuo a sostenere di sì. C'è una diatriba in corso con i nostri amici appassionati di Barbie. Io ho sempre saputo
A product of the 50s that wanted to tell the woman of the time who came, a freelancer, a woman independent from the man. They created a sexy dress,
per cui le hanno dato questa veste super sexy. Ma la
but the head of an architect, after all, architect is the sum of the arts, and there's no greater creativity for me.
And then, how's their creativity?
No, mica tanto. Cioè,
Not so much. We try in life to be as austere as possible. And then I think that creativity, that certain kind of rigor is needed to be interrupted by those moments of irony. Before, when you were talking about Palazzo Daniele, imagine this very rigorous space, all recovered, with incredible colours of the 18th century, etc. Then, at a certain point, in one of the rooms, in one of the suites, one of the most requested, you open the room and you don't find the bathroom. Then there is another door, and you think that behind it there is another room, and instead you find this huge empty room with a circular shower in the middle. The symbol of what has become a bit the symbol of hospitality today. It's fun not so much when you see it, but when you use it, because it's fun to take a shower in the middle of this room, completely naked, with this water coming directly at you. And it's an experience that destabilizes you. Let's say it has a use that's a little bit different, a little bit more ironic, even for you as a user of space. So I wouldn't say we are so austere, but rather iconoclastic. Then I repeat, when I take a photograph, I don't see anything. I close my eyes when they shoot the light, for that always so serious, a grimace of pain.
So we are at the
Io vi
end.
ringrazio.
Thank you. Thanks Ludovica, and thank you Roberto. Today the coffee is on me, and it was very pleasant.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to you.